From when I started working there, I just saw a lot of unprofessionalism, especially with the training staff. I feel being a professional having a professional past, I like to remain a professional. I can see so many loopholes of security for this up and coming event. There seems to be a very slack approach to security training. They seem to have a zero fail policy. So if a potential security officer comes on a specific course, then if they don't make that grade, they're not sent home. They're then put in a lower role. One of those lower roles being a security guard, which I feel isn't the bottom of the security tree at all. It's near the top. And it seems to be that they're demoting people who don't make the grade on one course to what I think is you need a more capable potential officer to run that job.
I mean, you've been there some time now. What kind of things are not happening? What kind of things are the trainees, should you think, be picking up that they're not picking up?
They're given a very short time span to achieve their training. One of the situations where we have metal detectors on the entry points of the venues, in amongst the training team we have a number of pretend IEDs, improvised explosive devices, decommissioned weapons and toy weapons to use in simulations, including knives and anything that's going to be some sort of lethal weapon. During the training, we're planting these on students and going through the metal detectors, which aren't being seen by the X-ray operators. They're also not being picked up. Large metallic items being hidden on people are not being picked up by physical searches as well. So from the experience, I can see the training is completely insufficient, and the people who are making these mistakes are still getting a tick in the box at the end of the day, getting sent round the corner to collect their uniform and sent home and told to wait for an email for your start date to start work.
So just to clarify this, potentially what you're saying is that if I wanted to walk in with a gun on my person somewhere, or with some kind of explosive device, or even any kind of big metal object, these are not being picked up by at least some of the trainees.
Yeah, I think if you walked through into one of the Olympic venues with a lethal capability on you, then you have a 50%, in my view, you have a 50% chance of getting through that screening procedure and getting into the venue.
How on earth is this happening? Are they simply poor quality candidates? Is the training wrong? A combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. I do understand that G4S and associated companies who are recruiting are giving East London and East Londoners employment, and I think that's a great idea. I'm all for giving British personnel and British people and foreign people work who reside in the UK. I think that's a fantastic idea. But what I'm not happy with is the quality of training they're receiving and what seems to me to be a zero fail policy. I don't think they're up to the job. The percentage of potential candidates coming through, my personal view is I would employ 10% of them coming through as security personnel for this event.
This is horrifying stuff, isn't it? You're saying that you've got a 50-50 chance, in your view, of being able to smuggle something into the games that could cause a lot of damage, even deaths, and that you would only hire, if you were in charge, 1 in 10 of the people who are going to be responsible for the security.
That's correct, yeah. 99% of the personnel coming through have no security background, no security employment background, and are completely unaware. As we teach on certain subjects, many people have language problems, so they can't communicate with the client, i.e. the personnel coming in to view the games, and a complete lack of confidence. I understand many of these people may have been out of work for some time, and to be put into work in this position, in a high-profile position like security for the Olympics, I think is extraordinary.
Who do you blame for this? Is this G4S, the government, LOCOG? Who has messed up here?
I think it's a combination of all, and I think they haven't. Personally, I think G4S took on far too much initially. Their initial screening process was far too strict, so they were actually down personnel as it stood. A couple of weeks ago, they were still 24,000 security personnel down for not just the Olympics Park, but for all venues in the UK. So what seems to be the case is they subcontracted out recruitment agencies to employ security staff. During the training, initially in April or May time, the courses were very small numbers. Some classes were only 20, 30 strong. As it stood, when I left the position, they were getting classes in that were around averaging 150 to 200. So you can see that they're starting to panic. And I believe, personally, that they're cutting corners on vetting and just seem to be recruiting anybody who's interested.
So basically they panicked, realised they're falling far short of the numbers they need, and are just pushing people through the system.
Exactly, yeah.
Have you mentioned this? Did you mention this at any time while you were working for them?
Well, the trainers, from what I saw, the trainers, when we weren't in lessons, they'd all be discussing how useless the potential security officers are. There was a number of occasions when they're told, because it is a secure training area, they're told not to use mobile phones. But one good thing that I saw was if people were pulling out mobile phones and deemed to be filming, or, as they call it, hostile reconnaissance, whether that be through media or any extreme reason, they were ejected from the site. And they obviously will have no longer potential of being employed as a security officer. That's not to say that it wasn't going on. I think obviously we found out that we'd won the bid for the Olympics in plenty of time. If they had recruited and vetted personnel from day one of finding out that they'd won the contract to secure the Olympics, then I think there would be no problem. I just feel that because they've taken on too much. They've realised that they need all this personnel, that this is going to be their downfall, I would think. The potential for an incident, whatever that may be, is very high, in my opinion.